No. Hello, everybody. I have 12 o'clock here on the West Coast for BNI Northwest, and I'm just so glad that all of you are here. I know that some of you are dialing in, and some of you are getting comfortable in meeting rooms and boardrooms with your chapter members, and I'm just so grateful that this is how you're spending your lunch hour. So thank you for doing this. And also thank you, not just for doing this today, but thank you for all that you're doing in your chapters. Whether you are a current leader, if you're a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, or you've agreed to fill that role coming up, it's going above and beyond. It's the epitome of giver's gain, and it's so important that we have people like you to do this, to keep our chapters humming year after year so that all of our businesses can be successful. So thank you for taking this time. I promise you will not be here a minute longer than the scheduled time. You can either go to your next lunch thing or do whatever you're going to do after your lunch if you're brown bagging this meeting. I want to be very respectful of your very valuable time. So thank you so much for that. The whole purpose of what we're doing today is so that your transition from one leadership team to the next will be as seamless as possible. Your members who are neither on this leadership team nor on the upcoming leadership team, they are expecting and hope for a smooth transition so they can keep having their one-to-ones, keep doing their referrals, keep plugging along, running their businesses without a whole lot of hiccups and wondering what's happening next. So in light of those situations we want to avoid, I was listening to a podcast recently that talked about how important it is that we communicate, that we in fact over communicate during transitions. And as we are heading into August this week, I can't even believe it, we are going to start counting down. If you're in a leadership position now, you probably only have 7 or 8 meetings left before you are transitioning into your next role for next year. And some of you are very happy about that, I know. And some of you might feel a little bit nostalgic, but the need to communicate between now and October 1st, and even after October 1st, when we see the new leadership team come, is crucial. We have to over-communicate, over-communicate, over-communicate. And so today is the beginning of the over-communication, because I know as an MC at events, which was my business before I took this on, I always felt like my role was to make sure nobody in the audience said, what's happening next? What's going on? And so as the leadership team coming in, you are at the front table, and we want to mitigate any of that confusion if we can. And so today's webinar is to that end, so that you will have a smooth transition. So those of you in leadership can end your term well, and we can transition as smoothly as possible and start strong and just pick up where you left off without any kind of gap in your chapter operation. So that's the goal today. And I also want to be sure that you know that because you are on this webinar today, you can log, when we're finished, you can log 3 CEUs for today. It's kind of like having a sale on CEUs because you get 1 hour and 3 CEUs. So you're welcome. That's how much we value your time here and how much I hope this will be valuable to you. One thing that I think is very important for us to recognize at the very beginning of anything that we're about to start is the fact that leadership matters. You as a leader, especially one of the people that everyone hears from more than other people in the chapter, your role at that front table is so important. It's so important because everyone is seeing and hearing you, not just at the days of your meeting, but also when you send emails, when you're making phone calls, when you're interviewing references for new members. You 3 people at that front table are very important. So it's crucial that you not only have the information that you need, but that you're also doing the information. And I think one of the things is to lead by example, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but the rest is to have the confidence to know where you're going and then to show everybody else this is how we get there. So let me start by saying to all of you who are currently presidents, vice presidents, and secretary treasurers, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know that you get so many emails from me. You get emails from your support directors. You get emails from your area directors. You have been to roundtables. You've set the goals. You've done all of the things. And your chapters are great. In fact, our current membership level is higher than it's been in a year and a half. We are hitting new records, and that's one of those lagging indicators that shows we are doing other things well, and the result is that we have more members. So you may be seeing it in your own chapters, or you might just be seeing a healthier chapter, or you might be having some other kinds of issues. But overall in the region, I can tell you we are growing, and that's because leaders are doing a good job. So thank you so much for what you're doing to fill those reports out, to communicate with your members, to put in those support tickets when your members have issues about payments or renewals. All of those things are appreciated. So thank you so much for doing that. And the reason we're having this call today is we can learn from each other. There's no reason for all of us to keep making the same mistakes over and over again. Why don't we learn from each other? So that's the goal for today. And to that end, I want some people to share some of the wisdom from the current leaders who have been doing the job for a few months now and are getting close to the end of doing it. And some of you, I know, are in a position that you carried over from last year because that transition time between April and July and August was a little bit bumpy for some of us last year. And those of you who continued on have extra wisdom, and we're so grateful that you were willing to do that. So I want to hear from some people who have agreed to share their experience and their wisdom. And so I'm going to have Jeff Sand, who is the current president of Kirkland's Leads to Perfection chapter, share. And then we're going to hear from Eileen Vieira, who is the secretary treasurer in Sammamish chapter Plateau Partners. Shout out my former chapter, yay. And then I want to hear from the VP of the Seattle Sound Business Leader chapter, Mac McCoy. So we're going to hear from Jeff and Eileen and Mac, and then if there are some other people who have some wisdom, and I just want them to share some of the benefits, because we know it's work, we know it's responsibility, but there need to be some benefits to it.
I don't know how this is. Oh, she has. Okay.
She have a recording?
So I would like to hear. Let's hear from Jeff, and then from Eileen, and then from Mac about some of the benefits that you've gotten from being on the leadership team this year.
So Jenny, this is Steve. I do not see Jeff on here. He may have lost his connection, so we may want to start instead with Eileen.
Sure, and then we'll circle back if Jeff is on there. If you see him, that'd be great. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, Eileen, you are live.
Can you hear me, Jenny?
Sure can. Hi, Eileen.
Hi. We are here with Christine and Stacy and Greg.
Great. Oh, good. You're all together. I'm so glad.
Yeah. So I was just going to say about, I feel like I've gotten a lot more business by being up in the front as secretary treasurer and popping up, doing my secretary report and my treasurer report and actively emailing people about MSP. And I feel like I've gotten a lot of visibility, and it's been great for my business.
Oh, good. And you've been tracking that, so you can actually see some of those numbers, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more than last year. So yeah, It's been great. Yes.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. Good. Thank you for sharing that, Eileen. Thanks. How about Mac? What have you got to say today, Mr. McCoy? Mac?
Mac may have to unmute
We're
himself.
working on the tech.
There we go.
So I'm here with my crew. Looking good. Lucinda O'Halloran, Secretary Treasurer, incoming team, Martha Moffett, Sean George. Doing that. That's us just talking to them. So I think the most important thing is that about being on leadership is the pressure to perform, because visibility, if you're not capable and if you're bumbling incompetent and you drop the ball on everything, everybody can see you. And Ivan talks about the net negatives sometimes. Everybody expects you to do a good job. No one really has ever come up to me and said, wow, I thought you were a bumbling idiot, but you've done so well as vice president, I have a referral for you. The other way around is I was going to refer you, but now I see you're a bumbling idiot. So the most important thing, I think, is to maintain the level of professionalism that you have and just hope that you look good for that year afterwards when you're out of office.
Oh, yeah, kind of playing the long game, huh? So to see, it might not benefit me right this minute, but I know I'm sowing seeds right now.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, well, let's see if that's true, huh?
Thing, of course, is that I think the real visibility is in supporting, as a leader, supporting everybody in your chapter. And if they don't feel it spreads. It's kind of like the baseball manager who said, success is keeping the 5 guys who hate you away from the 5 who are undecided. I think your job leadership is to keep people from even being undecided and making sure they just all love you.
I'm totally stealing that, Mac. That's fantastic. And would it be that we only have those 5 people in our lives? Only 5.
I didn't introduce Cheryl Yotis because we broke the phone and the tech. So, that's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you so much, Mac. I really appreciate that.
Thanks,
That's
Jenny.
great. Steve, do we have Jeff yet, or is there anybody else who'd like to share some benefit that you've seen, whether it's increased leadership skills or communication skills or more exposure for your business?
I don't see Jeff on here. He must have trouble coming
Okay.
on. So,
Okay.
But anyone else who wants to just raise their hand, I will unmute you and you can tell your story.
It's a great technological feature that we can raise our hands vicariously. The idea is that not only will you experience things like increased exposure for your business, leadership, communication, general confidence, speaking in front of people, maybe conflict resolution, I don't know, but that they would, as we've heard already, that they wouldn't be just for right now, but that they would be ongoing and long-term as investments in your professional development in general, not just in BNI. Okay. Well, I think it's time for a short poll. Those of you who are currently in leadership, maybe this will get your brains going a little bit. If you're currently in leadership, then you would be able to answer these questions. We're going to take a short poll on what benefits of being in leadership have you maybe experienced. And we've got this. Steve, are we going to be able to pull that up?
Yeah, can you see it?
I don't see it. I see my screen still.
Oh, okay. I think I may have to be the presenter on this one then.
Okay.
Hang on one sec.
I gladly yield control to you.
Well, thank you.
I find you trustworthy.
Okay. Change presenter. Steve. Here I am. Okay. How about now? Do you see it? Oh, I see people are voting, so they're seeing it.
Great.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, these are the choices: exposure, professional development, communication, leadership, or confidence. So we'll give everybody just about 30 seconds or so to think about those. Are you getting some votes in there, Steve?
Getting lots of votes.
Oh, good.
Let's wait about 10 more seconds because we're just get back there. Okay. All right, let's see what we've got.
This will be good for those of you who are about to be, look, oh, they're pretty evenly spread out, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. These are good things for us to be thinking about as you're finishing out your last couple of months, current leadership team. And also those of you who are incoming to these roles, you can be thinking about how you can maximize this. How can you leverage your position when you start on October 1st so that you can maximize these benefits for your business? And this might be one of the things that you ask the person who's come before you, the person who's in the role now. You might be asking him or her, how did you, if you got more exposure for your business, how can I capitalize on that? How can I be sure you are standing up much more often and speaking much more often? It should be a natural benefit that you would get more business, or at least more inquiries or more traction in something that you're doing. When I was working for the tutoring company and started my membership about 7 or 8 years ago, I remember becoming the education coordinator pretty soon, and it was a no-brainer for somebody who's in the education industry to be the education coordinator. And I got to say every week, this is what I do, this is what I do. And so we got a lot of good referrals and some traction from that. So hopefully those of you who are going to be successors then can ask the people in the roles now the best way to get some of those results. Are there any questions or comments about getting benefits from your leadership role? I think it's very important. Somebody has any questions? You'll stop me, right, Steve, if somebody has a burning question?
Yeah, absolutely. I will.
Okay.
I will definitely do that.
Right.
Actually, we have a few questions in the questions box. I don't know if you want to wait until the end or if you want to take a couple now.
Well, sure, we can take a couple now, especially if they have to do with this.
Okay. So let's see. Oh, okay. Nope, we have some people who accidentally raised their hands. Is what it is.
Okay. Well, if you have a real question,
No
we'll come
worries
back to you later. Great.
Okay.
All right.
So Jenny, right now I do not see your PowerPoint. I just see your image. So you want to make sure that that is turned on. Now that did you resume being the presenter when I send it back to you?
I don't know how to do that.
There we go. You're back.
Okay. But I want to be on this slide. Now is it there?
It is.
Okay. Thanks for bearing with us, everyone. Appreciate that.
Technical difficulties.
A gray-haired lady trying to navigate modern technology. Nothing better or more entertaining. There we go. So I would now like to hear some very specific things from those who I have talked to already, and maybe some of those of you who have thoughts on this matter as well. The big picture benefits we've already discussed. I also want to talk about some very specific things that those of you coming into these roles might be wondering about. However, chances are at this point you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what to ask. So I thought we would prime the pump a little bit and ask some of these questions of people who are in the roles now, and we'll kind of have
Jenny, are you muted? Unmute yourself for some reason.
there. I don't know what happened. There we go.
Okay, there we go.
I'm good now. This is fun.
It's all live, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's right. So instead of kind of philosophy, these are the real practical nuts and bolts of leadership. And so I've asked a few people to share questions or experiences or insights from one of these questions. And as you're thinking about what you've experienced the last 10 months or so, if you want to chime in on this, I want to hear first of all from Martin Colbert with the B-Town Business Builder. He's the president there. And in Burien, I know that you have been the president for more than just this term, right, Martin? So you have more than just these 10 months of experience. What kind of insight have you gained, or what have you discovered that's working well for you in your Burien chapter?
Well, actually, Jenny, this is my first term as president. I was education coordinator before.
Okay.
I am looking forward to coming back as VP next year. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's the role over there. I'd say the one thing that has worked well is holding back to the basics, focusing on all the things that are in there in BNI. The chapter success meetings have been really golden, and the data that we're getting from you and from Steve and from our director consultant, Robbie, have been very useful. We meet the first Wednesday of every month before the meeting. We analyze the data. We talk about what's going on. We look at all the metrics, and we use those metrics to decide our decision making. So that has been so helpful for us. We've seen some real changes in our group. The spirit of the group is still lively and still energetic. but the data are looking good and better every month. The second thing I would encourage is continuing education. As president or any of the leadership roles, listen to those podcasts every week. Better yet, listen to 3 or 4 podcasts and work your way backwards. There is so much information there. As I started doing that, I began to feel like I understood what it was I should be doing, why I should be focusing on where it is. And it's really helped the chapter as a whole. So those would be my top 2 tips.
Those are great and very practical. Those now, Martin, how did you, because I know the format for the chapter success meetings has changed from the leadership team meetings we were having before. And a lot of chapters I've talked to have had a little bit of trouble getting more than just the core people, more than 3 to 5 people at those chapter success meetings. Did you find that that was a natural process that people wanted to show up, or did you have some tricks for getting people there?
So we use the format as given. We have the leadership team of 3. Our entire membership team, -1, has been there every month.
Wow.
2 of the 4 will be returning because of their faithful attendance. And so we're continuing to make sure, as we selected this year's leadership team, that they knew they were committing to a monthly meetup as well. We always had a visitor host there because I could invite the entire team and one of them would inevitably show up. Our mentor coordinator was always there. And then I coordinated and reached out to the education coordinator as part of that leadership team. So we would have 75% to 80% attendance every time we met.
Wow.
We met over coffee and we started basically 60 minutes before our regular meeting began. And it was plenty of time for the president and the VP to do their part and then scoot out and walk down a block and a half and set up for the regular meeting.
Oh, that sounds great. So you had it at a different location, and as people peeled off from that meeting, you could go get the meeting ready.
That is correct.
That's fantastic. Okay, that's good. And it sounds like maybe a little bit of individual reaching out, not just a general announcement to say, hey, don't forget next week is the chapter success meeting.
Oh, so that's the most critical point. Over communicate.
Yes.
Then be reminded 1 week in advance, the entire membership would know there is a chapter success meeting next week. You can attend, but if anything you need, if you need anything addressed, let us know. And then I would send an email that Wednesday and a reminder on Monday morning. And yeah, when you don't do that, you don't get people there.
Yeah. I have heard similar stories, and that's also been my experience. So, wow. Okay, that's really good insight. Very practical. Set clear expectations. Over communicate. Good stuff. Yeah. Thank you so much, Martin. That's very helpful. We also have somebody from the northern part of our region, Kim Thompson from the North Sound Business Leader. She's the president up there. And then I want to hear from Jay Salmi, who is the president of Narrow's Business Connections down in Tacoma. So we're hitting all areas of our region. Kim, do you have any of these practical tools, things that work well, or challenges or insight from your year so far?
So the chapter success meeting has been helpful for our group as well, and we end up holding it right after our other meeting. We always do it on the first Wednesday of the month, so everybody already has it on their schedule. It's no surprise. We definitely over communicate, do the reminder. We actually send a meeting report, a meeting reminder where they have to reply to the email, so it's on their schedule. And so doing it in the same location after is easy because people unless they have something they have to scoot out for, they already know the set date, the location, who is supposed to be there. So that's been really helpful for us. A challenge that we have faced this year is that we have half of our members are new members. More than half. Wow. So yeah, so it pretty much makes everybody in our chapter a mentor or a mentee. Yeah, so we've really been focusing on the power of one, and that way bringing those new folks along with what they need to be doing in order to plug in and to make BNI successful for their business. Because I think that's the biggest thing for a new member is they're like, okay, I'm new. I don't know about all this. What am I supposed to be doing? And so getting them through the MSP, getting them through using their passport, And then, just having the strong leadership. We have a great membership team this year. They're definitely looking at, how members are doing and checking in with them. So those are just ways that we've tried to make sure that we don't get a new member and then they leave after we've put, so much time into it. So we're trying for that retention.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of the biggest thing that we've had.
Yeah, that's crucial. And I'm glad that you brought that up. The idea of helping new members it's just clutch to having a successful chapter, because there is so much turnover if we don't do that. And a second, third, fourth year member is exponentially more satisfied and more valuable to a chapter. So we want to keep those first members. And there's a lot, if you remember your first year, there's so much to learn. And member success program is half what it used to be online, because we kept listening to people say it's too long, it's too long. So they made it shorter. But those relationships that you're talking about, Kim, those are so important to keeping the new members understanding what's happening and building those relationships, because those relationships are the foundation of what we do in BNI. So that's so great. And most of our chapters have a lot of new members, like you're saying, because you all did so great inviting people at our business opportunity days. So of course you have new members. And I think
just got a new application this week.
Wow, good for you guys. I love it. Yeah.
Well, and one other thing it has helped to do is it has also helped to re-engage our current members, because as we have these new members coming in and they're doing these one-to-ones, it's really keeping everybody engaged.
Yeah, that's so good. Good for you guys. Yeah, your chapter's doing well. Thanks, Kim. Thank you very much. Jay, do we have Jay Salmi on the line? And do you have some wisdom and practical tools for us today? You might need to unmute yourself.
Hey, am I there now?
Yes. Hi, Jay.
Okay. Hi. So I'm actually one of the ones that have been in leadership for longer than just one term. Due to a loophole, I guess you could say, by the time September ends, I'm looking at 2.5 years up in front. So
get out of there.
But with that, what I have for insight is when I took over as secretary in February 2.5 years ago, the current president and VP and I noticed we had a large amount of non-communication. We kind of talked at the meeting. I always had to initiate emails to get things taken care of, to coordinate everything as far as the executive team is concerned, and set everything up. When I took over as president, I decided that was not right. We needed communication. We needed to continually talk and keep things going. So when I took over, and Danielle, my VP, she actually stuck with me for 2 years. So she's a 2-year term person too.
Wow.
We did quarterly, if not more often, depending on the situation. We did quarterly meetings for the executive team outside of BNI. And we went over all the information that we needed to, that we couldn't really get to per se in a BNI meeting time frame or via text or via email, because there's some things that just get lost in translation when you deal with text and email. And we would actually go somewhere, have lunch, that way as a business meeting lunch, and we would hash out anything and everything that needed to be taken care of. There's a lot of positives that came out of that. We started introducing after-hour socials that have just been going like gangbusters, creating more team building, more team ability to know each other individually rather than just the business aspect. So keeping that communication, keeping the executive team always in communication, and that has been a big change. I've actually seen a difference with us as far as what we're able to do and how we're able to communicate it effectively. So that's what I got for you.
I love it. That's so important. And I love the idea of saying what we have established here, what BNI is giving us as a structure is fine, but I think we need more communication. So you just set it up on your own. And I think something that your chapter does well, and several other chapters I've heard about, is this idea of constant calendar events for social time. And it's not just because it's fun and it's building relationships is one of our core values. That is true. But it's also a way to build trust in your chapter. And when your chapter has more trust among the members because you know each other, that's when more referrals get passed. So it's a really fun and easy way to build trust, especially when you have new members, is to have frequent social opportunities. It's what I've been trying to do with the new member mixers, is to get to know, have the new members get to know each other outside of a meeting so they can ask some questions and get to know each other. But that is going to build, and you just had one this weekend, didn't you, Jay? Your chapter?
Yes, we actually had a barbecue at one of our members' houses. So it was really a nice time.
Yeah, I love that. And then you can start those small conversations and then say, you know, we should follow this up. Let's have a one-to-one. I'll send you my bio. I'll send you my gains profile. Let's meet for coffee and let's really have a referral strategy session with a one-to-one. And then you also get your one-to-ones up. You build trust. You have increased referrals. It's a great and fun way to build a lot of positive momentum in the chapter. And I've seen that in your chapter, Jay, so good job as president. Good job.
Thank you.
But now you need to get off that front table. Take a break. Excellent, excellent. Is there anybody else who wants to share maybe something that worked well or a challenge or some insight? I know I've talked to Emerald Networkers a little bit, referral catalysts. Anybody have anything that they'd like to share on these questions? No?
I am looking at, let's see, I have Tia Bailey from Leads to Perfection, and her team is together.
Sure. Let's hear from Tia.
Tia? Okay, let's see. Hang on, let me unmute. Okay. Oh, we have a little problem here. She is not connected to audio, it says.
Oh.
Yeah, I cannot unmute you if you are not connected to audio. All right. Well, if you can get on again, that'd be great. Did we want to go back to Jeff, who was back on the line?
I would love to go back to Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Hang on, let me unmute Jeff.
Okay, Jeff is the current president of Leads to Perfection in Kirkland, and they have been growing like crazy this year. We want to know all your secrets, Jeff.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Oh, perfect, great. Well, I think when I reflect back on kind of what has taken place is I think it's new members and excitement, enthusiasm begets more enthusiasm. And we, early on, as we started adding new members who engaged themselves quickly and early on and really helped kind of fuel some of that overall energy to the chapter. And so what I have learned, having served now as president for, I don't know, not quite 2 years, and having a great leadership team with me is that BNI is so much more than obviously the chapter meetings. It's so much more than even one-to-ones. It is the more you throw yourself into it, either by visiting other chapters, attending big breakfasts, whatever it is, having outside socials, you have to really look at it as, if you were to build your own business, you wouldn't just figure out how few of hours can I give it a week. You'd give it everything you have. And so once you come to grips that some weeks it might be more hours and the next week it may be less, but you just have to kind of go in going, I'm going to do everything I can to see this opportunity be successful. And that's kind of what we've done collectively as a kind of a senior leadership team, is just, do what you need to do, engage the new members early, because a lot of that is where our energy and drive is coming from. And they're the ones who are bringing visitors.
Yes, that's true. Exactly.
Because they don't have time to fall into those old habits.
Yes. And have you noticed any kind of changes in your own professional development or exposure to your business or anything as you've been at that front table communicating so well with your other team members?
Yeah, I mean, now it's like I look for opportunities to speak wherever I can. And now you can't shut me up. So now I want to go find other venues in which I can talk to people, whether it's about my own business or just about helping other people grow their business. It's become a real passion, and I'm seeing actually a segment in my business that is growing just in consulting other agents develop better strategies for their own business. And that's come from just confidence that I've gained through speaking each week.
Mm-hmm. That's so important. Thank you for that. Yeah. And as president specifically, I think you have great opportunities to mention little advantages to your members, or to put your goals out there, or to remind people of all of the things that are happening by saying, oh yeah, and don't forget, we want to raise this much, past this much business this year. So I think it's a good reminder of communication. We've heard it several times already. So thank you for that, Jeff.
Yep.
All right, anybody else have any practical tools for the incoming class that they might be able to not make the same mistakes? Or do something fantastic and impress everybody right off the bat? That'd be great. No?
I don't see.
Okay.
I do, oh, actually, Stephen Weir has his hand up, so we can see what.
Yeah.
Thing. He is unmuted. Stephen, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Stephen.
Good morning, Jenny. Good afternoon,
Hi.
Jenny. Just one simple thing that has been successful for the Kent networkers over several years is the incoming people shadow the outgoing team for the whole month of August and September. As a matter of fact, for the month of September, they sit at the front desk. So you have 6 people at the front desk, and then slowly help take over the meeting. And so it creates a more gentle transition of holding the torch, from going from no torch to a well-lit torch. It makes it a much gentler transition.
Right. Yeah, if nothing else, you get used to seeing those other faces, right?
Right,
And
right.
yeah, that's good. And you guys transition well. Your chapter does a really great job of that. Thanks. That's a very practical suggestion. Steve, I just got a text from Julia Cook, who tried to raise her hand. Can we unmute Julia Cook and see what she wants to share? I'm sure she has insight.
She is unmuted right now.
Well, thank you. I hope you can hear
Hi.
me. Hello. Just as far as what was the challenge that you faced and how did you deal with it, I think as our leadership team came in, our chapter had a pretty extensive misunderstanding probably of what the attendance situation was and requirements or expectations were. And so we just as a chapter, we hit a restart on that and refreshed everybody's understanding of it, and then began enforcing that and letting people know where they stood on the attendance. And now with it being automated, that's a whole lot easier. But we just kept asking the question, make sure everybody knew what it was. And then folks who that really was not a good fit for, it was not a fun thing, but it wasn't a good fit for them. So BNI wasn't a good fit for them. And we said thanks, but we let them go on their own way to something that was a good fit for them.
Right.
And that helped us a lot. And now we're all on the same footing. There isn't any distrust or misunderstanding, and we're growing. And so that was key, not easy, but really helpful.
Yeah. I watched you guys go through that process. I know it's a painful way to have to do it, but what I hear other chapters talk about is that you're coaching people up so that they're changing their statistics in the power of one, or you're coaching them out to say, this might not be a good fit for you. It's not for everybody. It's a pretty high level of commitment as you invest in your business. And if it's hard to make that connection, or if it's hard to make the commitment to the time, then it's better for those people who are feeling disappointed all the time and they're disappointing other people. It's better for them to have clear expectations and know what that is. So that's good. Does you feel like everybody's in a better, everybody understands more what the expectations are for attendance and other things in your chapter right now?
I think the expectations are clearly communicated now, and folks know where they're at. I think the automated letters really help, and I think one of the other things that we did was our membership committee worked really closely together with our chapter to let folks know and to meet with folks, to connect with folks, as they were coming up on their limit of absences. So all of those types of things, just to make sure and to make it more relational. So
Right, right. Yeah, and we would love for those automated attendance letters, emails to go out to people accompanied by a phone call to say, hey, where were you? Because of the relationship aspect. So we're glad for the chapters that are still doing that. And it's a really good practice.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, thanks, Julia. I appreciate that. That's very practical.
We have time for one more?
Yes, one more.
Okay, so this is Evan Olson.
Oh,
And
hi, Evan.
he is now unmuted.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Evan.
So Steve already talked about one of the things I was gonna talk about, the shadowing. I had the opportunity of shadowing under Stephen Weir, and it really got me comfortable in the environment of being president and running the meeting. So I would say that if chapters are thinking about doing it or not doing it, I'd say go for it, and do it in August and September. And having 6 people at the front table might seem like a lot, but it really helps the transition.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that confirmation.
One thing that worked really well for our chapter, I feel, and others could, have their own opinions about it, is we had all of our goals, our one-to-one goals, our attendance, everything like that. But we decided to only have one major goal. Everything that we did was going to reflect this major goal. And we decided, because our retention was very low last year, we lost 43% of our chapter, but gained 47%. Our main goal was just keeping the new members engaged. And that was it. Everything was related around that, from the president doing the first one-to-one or an early one-to-one, to working with the mentor coordinator and having them sign up on BNI University, focusing on the MSP the first 30 days, and then focusing on the passport after the 60-day mark. That was something that we tested out, and we found that it really engaged new members, instead of just doing a whole bunch of stuff in the first 60 days and then have a gap of 2 months before you got to your 5-month review. And from what I can see, obviously it's confidential from the membership committee, but I don't think we've lost one member due to them not feeling like it was working or that they were actually engaged in the chapter. Now, I was on the membership committee the prior year, and we had several people that left because they didn't feel engaged.
Yeah.
So that was what really worked. The challenge I faced was money, the budget. Now, I know that when I visited the Roundtable earlier in the year, I found that a lot of chapters are different. They have monthly dues. They're not paying $25 or $20 a week. And so, BNI says you have to have up to 2 meetings worth of costs, including the meeting costs, the room, the printing, everything. And we were in a danger zone, almost counting on a snow day to get us by. And so we reconstructed our budget, which we didn't really have an existing one. And we presented it to the whole chapter and said, this is why we have to increase dues. And we had some, pushback of, well, I don't want to do this because, I just rather pay less. And anyways, we got it approved, and we don't see any increases in dues, because they're I think they're $20 a week now, for the next 2 to 3 years, based on what we see the increase for the room fees.
That's good.
What it also helped was events that we wanted to plan, like MEV Day, or we're doing the BNI game that's starting this week. We were able to budget funds for that up front and say, this is how much it's going to be. It wasn't, when we got to that point, the growth coordinator would be like, well, how much can I spend? We already knew. And so that was really, it was very important. So that's what I would say was our biggest challenge. And we conquered it like right in the first month. And it's been good since.
Okay, good. I need to move to the next slide. So I want to thank you for sharing, Evan, and for the rest of you. And if we have a little bit of time at the end, I know, Bob, you tried to raise your hand, and so we will come back to you if we have a second. But the next couple of slides are going to be crucial information for those of you who are working together. And I'm so glad to know that there are at least several of your chapters that are together right now. Like, I'm going out and you're coming to take my place. I think those are really, really great arrangements. And so I want to talk about some best practices over the years that we have heard from people. We'll take the opposite of them because we've heard of ways that the wheels fall off, and so we don't want to do those. But some of the things you can do in the next 2 months to get yourselves and your chapters ready to make that transition as seamlessly as possible so everybody can just keep making money and doing business. And the first one is for you to set up, and if you're together, you can all do this before you leave today, to set up a strategic one-to-one with the outgoing executive team member and your successor. And at these strategic one-to-ones, you can cover things like mistakes you made, lessons you learned, things you didn't have time to try, but you were going to implement next if you had a little bit more time. These are the times that you can ask questions. And sometimes if you're just sharing what you've learned in the last 10 months with the person who's taking over for you, that will start the question asking process. And they'll go, oh, I did want to know, when I see you do this at the front table, what's behind that? The more you can have those conversations now, before you start doing the online training with BNI University and before we go to the in-person training in September, you'll already have a frame of reference for those things so that you'll know which questions to ask and you'll be more prepared to sit down that first week of October. So I highly recommend a strategic one-to-one between the current president and the incoming president and VP and secretary treasurer. Those are going to be so helpful for building the relationships and a smooth transition for the rest of your chapter. Another thing that has been mentioned here a couple of times, Kent does this well, and Evan and Stephen will talk about this. I've seen other chapters do this well. Not only shadowing up the front table, but that is important. Now that all of our slates have been ratified and all of the members know who the new leadership team is, it's time for them to see you, whether it's just an introduction or one at a time sits up there, or if you have all 6, as Evan mentioned, that's okay too. But not just up front, also shadowing in things like, how do I upload an application? Can I sit down with you while you're uploading that? Can I ask what kinds of questions you might ask here? VP, can I sit down with you and get into BNI Connect so you can show me the path to get to that report? Because the VPs have a report or two. How do I find the information in the labyrinth known as BNI Connect? There's so much good stuff in there, and a shadowing experience to help someone navigate that to get to the right place will make a difference in October when you no longer in your position have access to it because the new person now is in BNI Connect, but they can remember what the screen looked like. Maybe you share some screenshots. We always hear from incoming leadership teams, I wish I knew more about how to get into BNI Connect. So a shadowing experience, a one-to-one, those are great opportunities to do that. And then finally, we just have to, we've heard it over and over again, communicate, communicate, communicate. This is so important. And I remember being in a transition season to say, I don't know if you're going to need help, but I'll check in with you in a few weeks. Or hearing people say, oh, could we have a one-to-one 3 weeks after I have my first meeting? Then I think I'll know what I don't know. So just keep checking in with each other, asking questions. You've built relationships in your chapter as you've been members. So it's a great thing to continue after October 1st. You're not done. You still are going to be givers gaining and helping the people who took your roles. And this is what I am the most proud of, I think, in our region, is how the chapters and the director consultants are working together. And we are here to help you. I'm so proud of my team. I'm so proud of the leadership in our chapters. And the fact that you are all working together and will continue to work together makes this transition process potentially way easier than it has been or that it could be. So as you are going along, new presidents, new vice presidents, new secretary treasurers, remember that your director consultant for your chapter also helped your predecessor. So he or she knows what that process is and probably has access to things that you might not even know to ask about. So don't hesitate to reach out to your ambassador, your support director, your area director. All of us are here to help your chapters get into the next season so that your businesses can just keep rolling along like there never was a transition. So all of these are really important ways for you to transition. And I want to be sure that as you're going forward, you know exactly what the next things are, because we've heard how clear expectations are important to this process. So the online training is going to be coming to you soon. I also want you to have on your calendars the dates for chapter success training, formerly known as leadership team training, but we want them all to be successful chapters. So these are the 3 dates in September: in Bellevue, in Tacoma, and in Linwood. And I want to be sure that everybody sees, especially if you're in one of our South chapters or maybe West Seattle and you would go to Tacoma, or if you're in Renton or something, Tacomas are going to be, it's not on here, but I'll let you know this. Tacoma's dates are in the times are in the afternoon. So Bellevue and Linwood are from 7 to 2. And the one in Tacoma is going to be from noon until 7 p.m. Now, in past years, we've done the staggered, and that's exactly what's happening. So nobody's going to be there for 7 hours. Don't worry about that. All of the dates, all of the information for exactly what positions need to show up for registration at what time, all of that is currently in BNI Connect and ready for registration. So as soon as you have your leadership teams and the slate has been ratified and you're ready to move forward, all of you can go onto the BNI Northwest calendar on the website, click on here, register for the date that your chapter wants to go to. So Friday, September 20th is from 7 to 2. Thursday, September 26th in Linwood is also from 7 to 2. But in Tacoma, we've tried something different. We heard from several people over the years that if it's not a day my chapter normally meets, it's hard for childcare, it's hard for transportation. So we wanted to try one of these at least that's later in the day. And I think we picked a great location for this experiment because it has bars and restaurants aplenty. So you can come early, you can stay late, you can have one-to-ones, you can make it a dinner, you can make it a happy hour, you can carpool for making traffic and parking easier. So we've got 2 morning sessions and 1 afternoon evening session. And all of those, like I said, are available on BNI Connect, and you can start registering as soon as you finish this webinar. So is there any questions about that, Steve, about this specific process of leadership training?
Let's see. Well, Colin's excited about happy hour.
Me
Jay
too.
says Hotel Murano is nice. They've had there several times in the past.
Yeah.
And Kim says note the location change for Linwood, not at the convention center.
Correct. Yes, thank you, Kim. We also have budgets to consider. And so these choices had a lot to do with that. So as you're going along, putting registrations information in there, if you have questions, again, reach out to your support directors, reach out to your area directors, and we will be happy to get you all of the information that you need for your chapters. And I'll be posting this information in a prominent location and over communicating it as well as we get more of the leadership team slates information from the chapters.
Jenny, we have a question from Joe Hamill asking, does the entire leadership team need to attend the same training?
We can't make that necessary because we don't know where your meetings are, what, you know, vacation times and family issues and things. It is best for your chapter if everyone can go together. I have been to leadership team trainings with my chapter when I was a member, and I've had to go by myself because of family travel or something. And it's much, much better if you can all go together, because at least because the middle of the training sessions will be that chapter success meeting mock-up. So you'll have a chance to operate as a new leadership team all together with new membership committee people, new executive teams, all of you coming together to do that chapter success meeting in a controlled environment, if you will. And so if all of you can be together to see how that next real one in October operates, your chapter will be better for it.
Okay, and then he's just following up his question with another that says, are we doing any chapter goal setting at the training?
The chapter goal setting, as the executive team members who are currently serving will tell you, the chapter goal setting has been moved to the January roundtable for all of the executive team members. And what we did last January was we spent an extended amount of time. We called it actually a summit or a retreat. We were together for a big chunk of the day. And the design of those days is to sit down and say, how many visitors do we want? How much past business do we want? How many social events? What's our budget? And so those were set for you in January. So as you come into leadership in October, you'll have 3 months of last term's goals to work with. And then in January, we will have another roundtable so that you can set the goals for the next 12 months, which will overlap with your successor. So this will not have a general session or goal setting. That will happen instead in January because it already happened last January. But that's an excellent question. I know that used to be something that we did. Any other questions?
I don't see any other questions here. We did have 2 other people who wanted to share earlier.
Okay, we have a very quick one more thing, and then I think we'll have time. Because I want to be sure that we see this. This is what you're doing in the next couple of months and in the year that you're coming ahead. Leading by example, one of the things that I have seen really powerfully in a lot of our leadership teams is the president, vice president, and secretary treasurer are in green on the power of one month after month. It's such a great example to show your chapter. This is how we pass referrals every week. This is how we bring visitors. This is how we do CEUs. This is how you are an excellent member because it's investing in your business to do these things that BNI suggest will work for us. So doing the things that everybody else is supposed to be doing is such a great way. And I'm glad to see in our chapters, we have a lot of leadership teams who are doing exactly that. So keep doing that and then show your successors how to do it too. And again, we've heard this over and over, communicate the vision and the goals, communicate with your members. This is super important so everybody knows what's going on. They won't hear you the first time or the second time, but maybe the third or fourth time, and maybe they'll hear it from somebody else. And I wanted, this last thing is, I think, something not everybody gets to hear, but we have access to lots of information from countries around the world. And they did some studies in Germany and Austria that said the single most important factor that would determine the success of a chapter was if they did these chapter success meetings and lots of people participated. And we've heard a couple of your executive team members here on this call already talk about how important that is. It can change the culture and the results of your chapters to have these chapter success meetings on a regular basis and to make sure as many people as possible are coming to them. So I can only encourage you, I just can't say it over and over again enough how important it is to be in these meetings every month so that you can look at the statistics, talk to each other, iron out the problems before they become patterns and then you don't know what to do with them. Those are the things I wanted to share. And now we have 3 minutes that okay. I want to hear. I know I want to hear from Bob Wilkie and then anybody else who wants to share some insight or ask some questions.
Okay, let me unmute Bob first.
Okay.
There he goes. Okay.
Hey, Jenny. I just wanted to share when Jim Zwickert and I, he's our vice president, took over last fall, we really knew that we needed to grow our chapter. So we visited, knocked on doors and visited other chambers, and we've added 7 or 8 new members to our chapter since then. So I can't stress enough how important it is to get out and touch flesh, shake hands, and meet people, like-minded people. Chamber of Commerce is a great spot to find potential members.
Yes, agreed. And you have done such a great job in your chapter of growing. It's unbelievable.
Well, so I put on 10 pounds. Oh, you didn't mean, I'm sorry.
I never would have noticed.
What I wear.
Yeah, your chapter's on fire. It's so good to see. Great job, big dogs. Great job. I love it. And also a thing that I think you do better than many, Bob, is that you send weekly emails to your chapter, and it's not just information they need, but it's always very encouraging, and you keep those goals and the vision top of mind for them. So great job on doing that. You copy me on those, and I love getting them every week. So good job on that.
It helps keep our chapter unified, I believe.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Is there anybody else? We might have time for one more.
Great. Unmuting Greg Minarchik. Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, Jenny, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for sharing. What have you got for us?
Shout out to North Sound business leaders. We've had a great leadership team this year, and it's really helped me with personal growth. I recommend it to anybody. I was in the BNI for 6 months and then had the opportunity to be secretary treasurer. And it was kind of scary at first, but it's been a great personal growth for me, and I'm really happy that I did it, and looking forward to training the new people coming in.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, your chapter is doing great.
Yeah, I
Thank
have
you.
one last one.
Okay.
Aaron Colger? Aaron, you there?
Aaron. Hey, Aaron.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't want to take too much time, and I quite honestly didn't think you'd be able to fit me in, but I wanted to make mention just, the various roles that I've held within BNI and the various things I've learned being a part of 2 different chapters, that, at the end of the day, we can't be scared of failure, because from failure we all succeed. And a lot of the people that come into these new roles, they are scared to take on the roles because they don't think that they can, step up to the plate or whatever their reservations might be. Don't be afraid of that, because at the end of the day, we are all human and we all make mistakes, but it's learning from those mistakes that we can grow as a member, can grow as a professional, can grow as a chapter. And the biggest takeaway I think that's helped me in all the various roles that I've held is lean on those documents on BNI University. I think that's where they've been transitioned over to now. But the old leadership manuals, the training guides, there are scripts in there that kind of help you look like a pro in the roles that you hold. So if you look at those scripts and, the secretary treasurer, when they give up and say their secretary report, or the president for the various pieces of the agenda that they do, there's scripts to everything, and it makes you look like a pro without ever having to lift a finger. So they're out there. A lot of people don't know that they exist. Biggest advice I can give is lean on the directors and have them help you in the things that you might not know, because you don't know what you don't know, and they're there to help. So that's what I got.
Great. Thanks for the plug for the regional team, Aaron. I appreciate that. Love it. I'm so grateful for all of you who have taken an hour. I don't want to keep you any longer because it's 1 o'clock. Thank you for what you're doing. You will all be assigned your BNI University training for your particular leadership position next week. So that is coming. And if I don't have your leadership team slates, you incoming executive teams, please make your choices and get your choices to your directors, your director consultants, so that we can make sure everybody has as much time as possible to get the online training done before we have our in-person training in September. So if you have questions about that, reach out to your support directors. Unfortunately, I know everybody has my email address, so I guess you can ask me if you need to. That's fine too. But we want this to be a smooth transition. So if you think of something later that you want to ask, don't hesitate. This is our focus for the next couple of months, is getting you in a position to have a successful October. That's what we're here for. So thank you for already serving. Thank you for agreeing to serve, for investing in your business by investing in members in your chapters. It's a really great way to do business. And it's not only that, it's the way we change the way the world does business with BNI. So thank you so much for all of your investment. I appreciate all of you. Bye.